It's time for another one of this past year's most talked about movies. This time one starring Adam Sandler, who's taken a bit of a break from making, well, let's just say less than great movies and leave it at that, shall we? And there's been a lot of talk about his performance, and a lot of people seem to be surprised. Surprised that he's actually capable of a great performance. But I'm not surprised at all, he showed he can act a long time ago. Even just recently in the Meyerowitz stories, he did a really good job. So yeah, that didn't come out of left field for me at all, nor did the fact that the Safdie brothers made a good movie. Because just a few years back they made a movie called Good Time. Which I don't know if I'd say I enjoyed, but I liked what they did with it. And I liked a lot of things about it, especially that very intense and visceral energy it had. And that movie has stuck with me ever since too. It's not a movie I'm gonna forget anytime soon. So when I heard they'd made this with Adam Sandler, it all made perfect sense. And the story here is about a New York jeweler whose life is a bit chaotic, to put it mildly. Because he's managed to get himself in a bit of trouble, but he's also got several schemes going on. Just ways to make things right, and at the same time, well, his personal home life isn't exactly ideal either, and that just adds to the chaos. And I gotta say, watching this as someone who wouldn't want anything to do with that kind of life, this was actually anxiety-inducing, to be honest. It was just all so hectic and intense. But in a good way, because that was obviously the goal of it too. And everything from Sandler's performance to the direction and the editing just worked together to create this really intense experience, at least for the first hour or so. Because I felt like that second half was just a lot less intense overall. I mean, it still had its moments for sure, especially toward the very end. But overall it just took a bit of a step back and didn't really push it, and to be honest, at that point we'd already seen what it had to offer in that regard for the most part. And then it was just more of the same, but not quite on that same level. And I wouldn't call it boring, but I also don't know really what else to call it. A bit underwhelming maybe, because at that point I'd gotten used to the hectic pace. And that same visceral energy that Good Time had. Just this relentless intensity. It's just so gripping and immersive, and then it slows down a bit. And I don't know, I started feeling anxious for it to get going again and to keep up that pace it had set earlier. Now don't get me wrong, it's still interesting and I wouldn't call it bloated. Because everything that happens does add to the story. But I also couldn't help but to feel like it could have been tighter in that second half. And usually movies build up and get more exciting as they go along. But this one though, I just thought the first part was way more gripping than the second. Apart from the very end. However, that was really my only real issue with the movie, and other than that, I still liked it quite a bit, and I would say I enjoyed it more than Good Time. And unlike that one, I could see myself rewatching this, more than once probably. Because it was a fun watch and there's so much going on to that I probably missed quite a lot. Oh, and I did want to mention that I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the ending. Because I fully expected something like that to happen. It felt kinda inevitable. And I definitely would have been disappointed if it had gone any other way. But once it ended, I just felt kinda empty and it didn't exactly feel cathartic or satisfying. And that's the feeling it left me with, and maybe that was the point too, I don't know. And usually if a movie left me feeling like that, I would call that a bad thing. But in this case, that was pretty much the only way this could have ended. And I didn't have a problem with it in theory, but as I said, it did leave me feeling a bit empty. Which is not a feeling I necessarily want to have after watching a movie. But anyway, that's about it, so would I recommend this? Yeah, I think it's worth checking out. Or you could not do that. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.